How's it going, everybody? Well, sorry to start all you guys, but guys,
That was correct. We're starting now.
yeah,
No
could
fault,
have
no
been
fake
ending that.
news.
No fake news, no fake news. Guys, the vibes are high here. Celtics, they've won 4 straight, and we're starting to feel a little bit better about this team, guys. Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. I'm your host, Rob Haytayan. We've got a packed crew tonight. Join with me is Nick Franco, Zack Hochberg, a.k.a. the Celtics fan page, Randy Elfman, and Seamus Zarlingo. Guys, the Celtics night, will they bounce back yet again for their 4th straight win, 112-105 against the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road? The Road Dogs, guys, are showing out yet again. Celtics now 36-15 on the season, 4.5 games back out of first place. That is Cleveland. Guys, you know the drill here. Celtics, obviously a much needed win. We talked about this kind of this week transpiring up until this game. We had this one bookmarked. Thoughts, reactions, takeaways, guys, from what I consider a very impressive win.
One of the bigger wins of the season. They really had to come off hot this stretch, and we started talking about this a few post games ago while the inconsistent stretch was going on. We saw what was coming up for the Boston Celtics. They had a few easy wins earlier on in the stretch, and you saw them be able to get past the challenges of the 76ers, Philadelphia, and the injured New Orleans Pelicans, but being able to get over the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been carrying that number 1 seed, really was a big testament to the Celtics really regaining their status as the number 1 team in the NBA and being the contending champions. It was never a comfortable game. Cleveland was really be on the Celtics the entire game, really making them uncomfortable. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell both having incredible games, but you saw the Celtics be able to really control the end of this game, and after Cleveland made their final push to come back, and it was just a great all-around win, especially with the competition you were facing.
We're back, folks. We're back. We asked this against Toronto. We're back tonight. We are back. I'm sorry, but 4 straight wins for the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are showing us a different vibe, a different tone in every single win. They were able to close out that game down the stretch against the New Orleans Pelicans. Well, first, let's start. They blew out the Bulls. Then they actually go and win a game down the stretch in crunch time against the New Orleans Pelicans. They come out, they play terribly against the Philadelphia 76ers. Then a 26-point comeback transpires in that game. The Celtics don't give up whatsoever. They finally bring their fight. They overcome adversity. They win that game. And now coming into tonight, the Celtics win their 4th straight game for the first time since the month of November. And they do it against the number 1 seed Cleveland Cavaliers, who the Celtics are chasing right now in the standings, now only 4.5 back of the Cleveland Cavaliers, with another game on the schedule against Cleveland later on this season at the TD Garden. So as much as we've been talking about the Celtics' inconsistencies in the month of December and January, the Celtics are still very much in the hunt for the number 1 seed right now. It's not the team's main goal. Their team's main goal is to play well. But at this moment in time, going into February now, maybe we just needed a calendar change. Maybe the Celtics just needed to flip that calendar up, because the Celtics, they're playing with a much different intensity, a much different energy, a much different vibe right now. And I thought tonight the Celtics played championship level basketball, and they really woke up for this particular game. Multiple individuals, we've been talking about them lately, they had great performances in this matchup. And really, we had performances we'll get to later that we didn't expect in this particular matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And although everybody's talking about Cleveland as that number 1 seed in the East, a team that could potentially take out the Boston Celtics, the Boston Celtics are still very much the team to beat, and they've shown it really in all 3 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers this season, going 2-1 now against the Cavs. But really, that one loss, the Celtics, they had a bigger lead going into the 4th quarter of that game than they did tonight. And the Celtics could easily be 3-0 against the Cleveland Cavaliers if Donovan Mitchell just didn't go off in that fourth quarter late or early on in December. But tonight's game, the Boston Celtics, they brought their energy, they brought their effort, they were getting after it on both ends of the floor. The offense was crisply ran for most of the night. Really not as much shot chucking as we're used to out of this team, but that's now becoming a theme from the Boston Celtics. Really, they're not trying to jack it up anymore out there. And defensively, I thought too, that is really where we wanted to see the team turn the corner. They did that tonight, came out, only held the Cleveland Cavaliers to 15 points early on. And the Cleveland Cavaliers really, they base themselves within their offense. And you see here tonight on the bottom of the screen, only 105 points for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're not seeing that very often out of Cleveland this season. And it was really because of Boston's defense and their ability to stymie everything the Cleveland Cavaliers wanted to run in this game. So great performance by the Boston Celtics on both ends of the floor. And this was really, if we're going to mark a Franco, I'm gonna come across the border here. I'm gonna use a banned term. If we're gonna point out a turning point right now, if we're gonna turn, if we're gonna no, he's no, don't get out that cat mask. That's the real punishment here. But I swear, if we are going to bookmark a turning point in the season, this little stretch here could certainly be it going into February, going towards All-Star break, and then coming out of All-Star break. If the Celtics can keep this momentum going, this little stretch here is going to be seen as a crucial stretch for the Boston Celtics and actually going and hitting that turning point we talked about all of January, yet didn't see until maybe tonight, maybe the last 4 games.
Yeah, Seamus, I think you really hit a good point there with the turning point. You know, the Celtics, we saw
I opened the box here.
Frank was like,
there's no denying
I'm bored.
the last few months for the Celtics ugly. And then, you know, we came out in that Sixers game, and I talked to you guys in the group chat. I said, look, it's about time that the Celtics realize they're not just a bunch of talented players. I mean, they are, but they finally realized in that Sixers game, we have heart. We might be down, but we're not out. And I think that Sixers game really was the turning point. Obviously, they come out huge win tonight, and tonight, really, guys, there were no excuses for the Cleveland Cavaliers. We can talk injuries all we want. Tonight, a full, healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team, a full, healthy Boston Celtics team. It was great. It was a great basketball game. You know, maybe an Eastern Conference Finals matchup. We'll see how, you know, things shake out. But just an all-around great basketball game. Glad the Celtics came away with it. But like I said, no excuses. I think the Celtics finally proved, I mean, to the rest of the league, put the rest of the league on notice. The Celtics 5 starters, the Cavaliers 5 starters, they really don't have a chance when it comes down to Celtics versus Cavs. The Celtics starters are just straight, you know, plain and simple. They're just a better, more chemistry, a better team than the Cleveland Cavaliers. You look up and down the roster, right? Boston starting 5, you can compare wherever you want. The Celtics starters clear the Cavaliers starters. You look up and down the bench, and I was talking to Justin a little bit about this, right? It feels like, you know, those random guys, Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, they're always just having their best game against this Boston Celtics, just drilling the threes. And tonight, you know, same thing. I think we held Donovan Mitchell in check. We held Darius Garland in check. I think Al Horford played a huge role in his perimeter defense tonight. And it was an all-around great team effort. We saw Jason Tatum with some great leadership down the stretch. He helped the Celtics team in the last 5 minutes. You know, it was a close game, 5-point game. We were all texting in the group chat stressed. We were like, oh, here we go, 5-point game. This is where they crumble. And I said, this is when leaders need to come and show their true colors. And Tatum, what did he do? He drove the basketball, leads to 2 Derek White back-to-back threes, and guess what? Game over. And that's what leaders do. And I think tonight was a great showing for Jason Tatum. Not only just scoring, I think he had, 21, 23 points, something like that.
22,
but it was his ability to play make down the stretch. And then we all, you know, like we talked about, the defense was just, they were great from the jump. You know, a couple of, I don't even think when the Cavs were making their shots, it wasn't bad defense. We had, you know, you had Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. They're going to hit their tough shots. You play as good defense as you can. And the Celtics had a couple of defensive lapses, but no team's perfect. But I think for the most part, even when the Cavs were hitting threes, their closeouts were good. They weren't falling for up fakes, and I think it was just an all-around great performance for this team.
I'll just add, I mean, we've talked about them struggling now. It's 7-2 now in their last 9 games, 20-6 on the road. And I think the biggest thing they proved tonight is, even though we saw them do it last year on the way to the NBA Finals, but they won on the road in Cleveland. And that's a big confidence booster when you're talking about possibly having to play them in a 7-game playoff series. I like what you mentioned about Tatum really controlling the offense. The Celtics are at their best flat out when he has the ball in his hands and he's the one in control of the offense, whether he has the ball in the hands or not. Whenever he's near the ball, the defense just draws to him. He's getting doubled and he's able to pass it out. We saw Derek White have a great game. And a lot of the buckets that Derek had in that fourth quarter were off passes or off actions that Jason Tatum had.
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 out of the 3 teams who, believe it or not, didn't touch their rosters this offseason, right? The Celtics, the Cavaliers, and the Lakers are the 3 teams now. Really, the Lakers, that's out the window with the news that transpired this weekend. But the Celtics and the Cavaliers, those are 2 teams that are identical to what we saw last year. And last year, the Celtics were able to kind of have their way with Cleveland, 6-2 against them in the playoffs and regular seasons. Combined. So really, I'm not worried about this Cleveland win or loss. This game, to me, if we're talking about the future of what the playoff looks like in a potential 7-game series, Cleveland's not a team that I look at in the view as a threat to Boston. However, I will say this in terms of what Cleveland can do in a regular season matchup against Boston. That's a way different, story. That's a way different conversation. Tonight, I don't think you saw either team's best showing. I don't think this was Cleveland's best punch, and I don't think this was Boston's best punch. However, I think the fact that Boston, kind of like what Zach just said and kind of what you guys alluded to, the fact that Boston was able to go on the road, not play their best game, right, and still get a win, that says a lot about where this team is trending in the direction this team could be going. Randy, I agree with you, man. You talk about, if you want, I'm sorry, Randy, or I'm sorry, Frank, I'm going to say it. If you want to look at a turning point, if this is the Celtics trending in the right direction, I think you absolutely look at that last 14 minutes of that Philadelphia game as the moment that Boston kind of got their act together. Tonight, it was not pretty. It was ugly. Shots were not falling. You didn't see Jaylen Brown in the last 5 minutes of this game. It was weird. It was unconventional. But, guys, a win is a win. And this was a win that Boston really needed to feel good going into the All-Star break. Obviously, it's a couple more big matchups over the course of the week. But, again, very, very pleased with what Boston put out tonight, guys, on TNT.